I've heard a lot of strong cases for both sides, and it feels like it's starting to turn a little bit more towards that Michigan side. Early on, with the amount of money that came in on the Tide, it just felt like I'm like, man, is this thing gonna flip? Like the number started to come down a little bit, and there was so much Bama support, and I feel like now that we're here, we're starting to see some Michigan support from the sharper community. Um, where do you want to start? I guess we should start with Alabama. They're the public team, and I know, and I'm sure part of that is people want to go against the cheaters, I guess. And the other part is, though, I think you have to start with the head coaching matchup that you have here with Saban and Harbaugh. And Saban is as good as it gets. He has an opportunity is on the table here for him to win the 7th championship. And then on the Harbaugh side, struggles. 6 straight bowl losses. This could
Mhm.
be his 3rd straight loss in the college football playoff, meaning in the semis. So, I mean, you give Saban a month to prepare. You know, he had that time to prepare, and look what he did to Georgia. I think this is fascinating. If it feels like that Georgia win has kind of made people forget about all those close games that Bama was playing during the year. So they got very lucky, became coin flippy, and they ended up on the right side of that. Like they shouldn't have beaten Auburn. They shouldn't have won
Right.
that bowl game, the Iron Bowl. Texas A&M, they were lucky. Arkansas was another game that was way too close for comfort. It's like Bama's 2 different teams. What we saw in the first half of the season, or at least the first month, versus what we saw the rest of the way. And it's about Jalen Milroe. And there was development with him, and it was just changing things offensively, building around him, using his legs more. And then now we get to the semifinal game, J-Rod, and Michigan's going to see Milroe, kind of quarterback they haven't seen all year, because they reside in the Big Ten. They had a soft schedule until the very end. Like they had 3 toughish games all season long. And then we sat there week after week. We're like, well, Michigan looks great, but I don't really know. Michigan looks great, but I don't really know. And then we found out at the very end. Now, give them credit for winning those games, but quarterback play. If Michigan's playing from behind, does anybody trust J.J. McCarthy? You know, when they were dominating teams, McCarthy entered that Heisman conversation. But how did he do against Ohio State, Penn State, Iowa? And he's going to face a tougher defense. It's not, typically, the Bama level that we're all used to, but it's still going to be tough. And if you look at his numbers in those games, well, in one of those games, they didn't trust him to throw a pass in the second half. Or the run game was so strong that they didn't have him throw uh,
Right.
a pass all game. For Michigan, it's about Corum. It's about the run game. They're going to stick with that. I just have questions if we can trust J.J. McCarthy if they fall behind in this game. Michigan 1.5. Fascinated to hear where you're at, J-Rod, but I'm on Bama. I'm going to take Bama in this spot. Yeah, you give me a 1.5, that's fine. I'll take the 1.5, but I don't have a problem if you take them on the money line.
The first thing that someone told me is, well, look at Michigan's defense. They gave up 9.5 points a game. Yeah, that's
I don't care.
outstanding, right? That's
Against
great. But
Iowa, great.
well, yeah, yeah, they pitched 2 shutouts, but Michigan State, I mean, okay, cool. Again, I will take even a fluky wins against Arkansas and Auburn. The only thing that gives me pause, and I would bet the money line and the under in this game, is that much like the Minnesota Vikings last year, who won so many tight games and it blew up in their face, you just got to wonder if that luck is going to run out eventually, sort of like a boxer who lets his opponent hang around. But I don't know if Michigan's got enough firepower to hang around.
When I was at 63.5, I was like, man, I don't know about this. I'd like to bet the over, but I'm not sure. But now that I see it sliding down a little bit, that's kind of where I'm at. As far as this matchup, it's amazing. Like Oregon was power ranked going into championship weekend as the second best team in the country. And like Washington wasn't given a chance in that game. They end up being a double-digit dog. They pull off the upset. We know the story. But if it's Oregon, Texas, like Oregon's a favorite in this game.
Mhm.
Like that's how different it is. So Washington goes out, shocks the world, and now they're, as high as plus 4.5 right now. High flying offense with Penix. They have a great group of receivers. They've been doing it all year. Keep on doubting them. They're going to keep on pouring it up. They're going to continue to pour it on. Texas, they've been going running back by committee ever since Jonathan Brooks went down to his injury. Before that, he was averaging 6.1 yards per carry. He's not going to be available here. And I think Penix is going to be able to throw up some numbers today. And this is obviously the better quarterback matchup of the two big games today. And you mentioned the Alamo Bowl, and it's amazing that they're meeting again here. But I'm going to be public Joe, man. I'm Bama in the first playoff game and in the second playoff game, especially as it dips a little bit. I like the over 61.5. How about you, J-Rod?
Yeah, that interests me. Listen, you can't run on Texas, and Washington's got a great offensive line. So that means they're not going to be interested in running, and they're going to give Penix all the time in the world. So I'm looking at props. I'm looking at more, it's a big number, but Penix 313.5 passing yards.
Ooh.
Last I looked at, I think he's going to be, they're not going to run the ball. You may even want to look at pass attempts. They're not going to run the ball. So they're just going to throw. Now, will that translate into that many points? I like it better over at 61.5 than I do at 63.5. But I think Penix is going to rack up those yards. I think it's going to be a fun game to watch. This smells like a big live betting situation, especially if it turns into a slugfest. If you're in the 40s or 50s at halftime, then I think we can have some fun in a live betting situation. But right now, my bet would be Penix over 313.5 passing yards.
I don't know that the Cleveland Browns are a good matchup for anybody. And we've been talking
Mm-hmm.
about this on my show since Flacco returned. And Flacco, look, Flacco's an iconic player here. Flacco had one of the greatest playoff runs in postseason history by any player. And for him to do it as a Baltimore quarterback, where the first time the Ravens won a Super Bowl, you'll recall it was Trent Dilfer, and he didn't have a whole lot to do with it, right? It was the defense and the run game and special teams and, explosive plays on defense, explosive plays on special teams, and then a 3-yard slant to Shannon Sharp and, out in Oakland, and he takes it the 85 yards to the house. Like the quarterback was just along for the ride. So for Flacco to do what he did, and outduel, the likes of Peyton Manning and those guys, it was pretty phenomenal. So when he returned, it was obviously a big talking point here. He returns in the division. And then it went from being cute to being pretty real. And then the debate has raged on, and more people have come to my side, which is, you don't want that coming here. Like, they've got nothing to fear. They are the ultimate team with money in the bank. Those fans thought their season was over 3 different times this year, right? With all the quarterback changes. Like when Watson got hurt the first time, and then Watson comes back and gets hurt again, and then, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, okay, maybe we can talk ourselves into that. And then he gets knocked out of the game in Denver, and it's like, we're back to PJ Walker. And then for Flacco to have done what he's done, they're going to throw the ball 45 times. They're going to throw the ball with reckless abandon. They're not going to care about the inherent couple of interceptions that will come with that volume. They're going to keep chucking it. They're going to chuck it with Amari Cooper. They're going to chuck it without Amari Cooper. And that defense, when it's right, is dominant.